A lot of players think that teamfighting is all about jumping into 5 people and hoping that you somehow make it out on top, but that's actually not true. You should be more strategic about teamfighting and avoid coin flipping fights because you might even lose a big lead. And as Riven, if you jumped into 5 people, you would get insta-popped because she's very weak to getting locked down. So I'm going to teach you how you could still destroy in teamfights as Riven. First of all, you can't just teamfight for no reason. Too many people think that you should group all the time after lane phase ends because they don't know what else to do. You should be asking yourself questions like, are there objectives up? Do we have vision? Do they have hard engage? And if I win the team fight, what can I get after? So you have to team fight to gain something and not just fight for no reason.
Oh!
Every champion has a different role and a different job that they need to do in team fights. In the front line are where the tanks and fighters are, and the back line is where you have the squishier damage dealers. Riven's role in teamfights falls more into the fighter area where she can deal huge damage and be durable, but she can also be in the backline to peel for her carries. Fighters usually have a pretty flexible role and can basically flip between frontline and backline depending on the situation. Even before the game starts, you could come up with a plan in loading screen and see what champions both teams have. Try to figure out what your team wants to do and what the enemy team wants to do. Does your team have no engage champions? Then it's up to you to engage. Do you have an engage like Sejuani or Malphite? Then you can follow up to the engage. Does the enemy team have a diver like Master Yi that can one-shot your team? Then you should stay in the backline and use your CC to interrupt him and peel for your carries. Most of the time, Riven doesn't want to be the first to engage because she wants to be mobile, and if she gets locked down, then she's pretty useless. So if your team has a hard engager, then your job is to follow up. This way you're not taking all of the damage and you won't get one shot. If you're in a situation where both teams are sitting in lanes staring at each other, then you should try not to get poked down so you can counter engage in case the enemy gets too cocky and missteps. The reason you don't want to take poke and be healthy is because you can create a lot of pressure by just being there. And sometimes that's all you need to zone them from getting onto your team. If the enemy chooses to engage on you, then you can counter engage by waiting for your enemies to use their skills, and then you could go in. Also, if someone on your team lands hard CC, then you could follow up with your own CC. Try to coordinate your CC on enemies and not to stack the CC or it'll be useless. Another way you could counter engage as a fighter is you could try to pressure map and flank behind with TP. This way you'll be on 2 different sides of the map while forcing the enemy to make a decision. Because Riven has high mobility and AoE CC, she has the ability to hard engage. You could start the fight if your team has no engage and try to save your flash for it. You want to flash on enemies that are clumped up and get a huge knockup. Try to stay close to your team. A lot of Riven players have tunnel vision trying to get the 5-man knockup, and because they don't have anyone to help them, they just die in one hit. You can instantly become a better player by being patient, looking at the map, and make sure that your team can follow up. Let's say you lost your matchup in the top lane, but your ADC in the bot lane has 5 kills. You could still make yourself useful by peeling for your carry and making sure they can do their damage. Because Riven has a knockup and stun, she could stop any assassin or Irelia or Master Yi from destroying your backline, or at least delay them until your team is able to kill them. And after you take out the guy who's diving your team, you could fight or take objectives with a numbers advantage. If the enemy has a really fed carry, then they should be the priority target for your engage. In this case, you should really try to save your flash for them every time because you have to kill them if you want to have any chance of winning the fight. Before you even try to dive them, you should look for vital information like, do they have Zhonya's, flash, shield bow, or maybe they have peel like Alistar or Thresh who can easily interrupt you. One way to dive the backline is to try and find a good flank with sweepers and pink wards to control vision. A really great way to kill that main target is to coordinate with another diver on your team. You can kill them way faster than you would have killed them solo, and from there you win the fight. That's right, teamwork is your best friend in team fights, who would have thought? So now I've got some tips that you could use so you could hack your way into team fights. Try to buy stopwatch before a big fight if you can. Not only does it go into GA, which is a solid item on Riven, but it could also get you out of a bad situation. In my opinion, stopwatch is really OP, and it could buy you enough time to win the fight. Also try to be aware if the enemy has Zhonya's, because they could do the same thing to you, where you all in them, only for them to turn golden. So for an example, I have this team fight where I see the enemy team doing Rift Herald. I look at the map to see that my team is on the way, so I know I could try to stop them. I end up stealing the Rift Herald, but now I have 3 people chasing me. So before I get CC'd by the Blitz, I pop my stopwatch and my Bard ults them, buying me even more time. And from there you can see my team is able to counter engage because they chased me without knowing I had stopwatch. And now that the enemy team has 2 people down including their jungler, we stole the Rift Herald and now we're able to do Baron for free. Try your best to control vision in fights, or even before the fights. Use control wards, and if you want to flank, then have a sweeper on hand to make sure you're out of vision. Wall hops from out of vision are OP. If you can learn all the wall hops, then you can engage in ways that your opponent can never expect. It's really hard for someone to react to it, and the only real counterplay to avoid this is to know that Riven is out of vision and looking for a way to engage. Extend your Q so that they'll be back up after you engage. Remember, Riven's Q cooldown starts on the first Q, and if you wait 4 seconds between each Q, it'll come back up instantly. And honestly, you should try to extend your Qs all the time just in case you find a window to fight. Use the ER cancel so you can engage without making it obvious that you're engaging. This catches them by surprise because you're moving and casting your ultimate at the same time. Now here are some example combos I have that you could use on clumped up groups of enemies. So that's going to be some team fighting tips that you could use on Riven. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you on the next video.